Hi everyone, my name is Brooke and me and my partner Mackenzie are going to be presenting Japan for you guys. In this first slide, this is a picture of Mount Fuji. Mount Fuji is Japan's tallest volcano. It is also an active volcano. It lies southwest of Tokyo and it is one of the biggest tourist attractions in Japan. So, a little geography about Japan. Japan lies on the east coast of Asia. Its square mileage is roughly similar to that of California's, but it is slightly smaller. The capital of Japan is Tokyo, and Tokyo is on the island of Honshu. There's four main islands, and these four main islands list up 97% of Japan's total land area. There are also smaller islands located south of Japan. A little bit about Japan's climate. It ranges between the north and the south. The north is definitely colder than the south. The north has warmer summers and very cold winters. They also get a lot of heavy snowfall. If you can see in the diagram to the right, there is lots of snow in the north compared to along the east coast and the southern part of Japan. In the south, the climate is semi-tropical. They get a lot of rainfall and they have hot summers and mild winters. So Japan is the 10th largest country by population. There's roughly 126.5 million people who live in Japan, and 13 million of those people live in Tokyo. As you can see on the picture to the right, this is a picture of the street, like a street in Tokyo. And yeah, there's a ton of people. The population of Japan they have a large elderly population. 27.6% of people are 65 years and older. The individuals, the population is aging just due to the low fertility rates in Japan. A little bit about Japan's language. They speak Japanese, and there's many dialects, but the standard one is the Tokyo dialect. Japan's economy. Japan is a developed country. Their economy is growing, not by much, but by a little. The annual GDP growth rate is 0.788%. And GDP is the gross domestic product. It is the final value of all the goods and services produced in a country. Japan's currency is in yen. One US dollar is roughly about 105 yen. So the pictures on the right are like 1,000. Well, that would be a $10 bill and then a $50 bill and then a $100 bill, like translated to American. Japan is big in international trade. Their biggest trading partners are China, the United States, and South Korea. Their main exports include motor vehicles, electronic equipment, and industrial machinery. Big companies such as Toyota, Honda, Nissan, they make cars over there. So obviously we see that here in America as well. And Japan is not big in agriculture. I know that 60% of Japan's food is actually imported from other countries. Japan's agriculture, 1.19% of their GDP comes from farming. This is due to a lack of adequate farmland. Not a lot of farmland can be used to grow crops. Only 12% is used. And out of that, 85% of their farmland are rice fields. Rice is a big product grown in Japan. Other crops grown include soybeans, wheat, barley, and a variety of fruits and vegetables. On the right, I included a picture of a rice field that is located in the southern part of Japan. So they get a lot of rainfall here. So the rice are able to grow properly. So one event that really did damage to Japan was the Tohoku event. And this was an earthquake and tsunami that hit the northeast coast of Japan in 2011. This earthquake was the fourth largest earthquake to hit the earth. It has a magnitude of 9. The latest reports that I could find were from 2015. There are around 15,890 deaths, around 2,600 missing people. There were many injuries. $220 billion damages were done to Japan. The main damages done were to the nuclear power plants alongside the northeast coast. Obviously, these power plants exploded and a ton of radioactive elements went everywhere. And there were food and water shortages because of the radioactive elements in the air. Their food was contaminated, the water was contaminated, the fish living in the ocean were contaminated, so they couldn't eat that. There were also damages found in Hawaii and marine facilities in California. So, although much damage was done from the Tohoku event, one thing that still stands for Japan are their values and beliefs, and they very much value education. They have a high quality basic education, so they really focus on the education before high school. There's actually like an examination to get into high school. They are international math test world leaders. A little bit about their statistics. Over 95% of people living in Japan are literate, and over 95% of students graduate from high school in Japan. And then after high school, most students attend post-secondary institutions, so like college. Teaching jobs are very hard to get in Japan just because of the high prestige and just how high they are valued in the education system. And not only does the education system value academics, but they also value good character, which I believe is really taught in the hidden curriculum. Another value that they have is religion. So in Japan, the 3 main religions are Shintoism, Buddhism, and Confucianism. Shintoism values kami. So kami is their god, and they see it spread throughout the natural world. So in mountains, rocks, rivers, anything like that. Buddhism, those who value this religion practice gain a practice to help release from their suffering, because they all believe that eventually everyone will die, and they want to relieve their suffering during this time. To the right, I included a picture of a Buddhist temple. Confucianism, this religion values respect for parents and elders, duty, loyalty, and kindness. And one thing that I believe is worth mentioning is people from Japan really value harmony, social conformity, just a homogeneous culture. There is also a saying that I came across in my research that says, "The nail that sticks out gets hammered down," which I think speaks for itself. And in this side, I included a picture of a holy place of Shintoism. It is a shrine. It is also known as the Island of Worship. It is located on the small island of Hiroshima Bay, and it is a very popular tourist attraction in Japan.
So the meal patterns in the Japanese culture are traditionally very healthy, which I kind of noticed a difference of the Japanese culture and the American culture is that they do follow a very healthy meal plan. They typically use the 80% full rule, so which basically just means that you eat until you're 80% full because your brain is about 10 or 15 minutes behind the rest of your body. So you typically are 100% full, so they will usually just eat until they're 80% full. And this kind of just helps you to not eat too much and avoid overeating. So the food habits in Japan, they typically have a few main common types of food that they incorporate into their diet. Some examples would be rice, cooked and pickled vegetables, fish is a big one, pickled, fermented, and smoked foods, tofu, edamame, and aduki, which are like beans. So there are many different types of cooking methods, which all vary from each other. So I chose four different ones. So the first one would be ejimano. So it's basically just deep fried dishes. They have like bite-sized meat, breaded patties for like mashed potatoes, deep fried veggies, and tofu. And these are all kind of combined together and deep fried. The second one would be called mushi amano, which is typically your steamed dishes. They like doing this because it preserves the flavor and also preserves the nutritional value of the food. The third one would be nimano, which usually is the simmering or boiling of food. Typically, the food they use for this would be the salty, sweet, and umami flavored broth. So, all of the foods that are in those categories, they would usually use for that. And the fourth one would be yakimono, which is usually the grilled or pan fried foods. Typically, they use the teriyaki sauce for the grilled foods, and all of the foods here are usually this more of a savory flavor. For table setting, I found this was also very different from the American culture. The Japanese usually eat in smaller portions, whereas in the American culture, we have like one giant plate with as much food as we can get on it. Whereas in Japan, they have many different plates, smaller dishes, and they just put one thing of each on there, which also this helps for to avoid overeating when they have the smaller dishes and smaller portion sizes. For manners and etiquette, for sitting, they usually eat at low dining tables on a cushion, which is usually placed on a tatami floor, which is like a mat. So everyone is sitting at a low dining table. For honor, usually the most important person sits in the honor seat, which is furthest from the door, and this could be like an elderly person. And then the host will sit in the middle of everybody, in the middle of the table. And for handling, so usually you'll pick up the bowl of food with your hand and lead it close to your mouth when you're eating from it. And one thing that I thought was interesting was that when if your food is like falling, you never cup it to catch it with your hands because that is considered bad manners. For health beliefs, they have many different health beliefs in the Japanese culture when it comes to food. So, fermented foods are being shown to support a healthy digestive system. Natto, which is usually served at breakfast, it has a probiotic action that has been shown to help treat IBD and may help blood clotting. Seaweed is a health boosting mineral and it could help reduce blood pressure. And green tea, which has matcha, which is a high antioxidant compound known as catechins, and it's usually linked to fighting cancer viruses and heart disease. I thought it was really interesting how in the Japanese culture they take this very seriously and incorporate these foods into their diet. Um, because they have like a high respect for their bodies, and I just thought it was interesting how seriously they take it. Some unique ingredients and spices that they use would be fish. So this is a staple in the Japanese diet, and also they use a lot of tofu and fresh edamame. And as I stated before, the miso and natto are very important to them. So for the recipe, I decided to use unagi because it is a very important dish and a very popular dish in Japan. So, unagi is eel, and basically it's been filleted and deboned and then grilled over an open flame. So that helps to melt off the layer of fat right underneath the skin. And then the eel is steamed and drained. And then all of the sweet eel sauce is poured over it. And then one of the most important steps when making the eel is grilling it a second time. So this helps the eel to absorb all of the flavors from the sauce that was poured on it. Um, and it has a really, really strong flavor. So usually it's served with a bed of rice. So the taste of this, usually if a freshwater eel is being eaten, it has a bold or very rich taste, but the saltwater eel has more of a muted taste and it also has more of a natural sweetness to it and a softer texture rather than the freshwater eel. Some stories and traditions that go along with unagi is that it's usually eaten on the day of the ox, and this is because it aids in one's strength and vitality for the coming year. One reason that they believe this is because it's full of protein, vitamins, and calcium. So for the external media source, I found a video for the history of sushi, and it kind of just explains how sushi is made, how sushi was created, and how there's different types of sushi and like the cost of it and what each like how to make each type of sushi. So I just thought that was interesting, and considering that fish is a staple in the Japanese diet, I thought that sushi would be a good video to watch. It's about 6 minutes long, so definitely check that one out. And here are our references.